You are listening to the Lucha Central Podcast Network. And now, Lucha Central Weekly.
Been working this week, so you know it's okay to be tired. You're working and doing this.
Yes. Ooh, speaking of work, welcome to another edition of the Lucha Central Weekly Podcast. This is the podcast that lets you know all of the latest happening in the world of Lucha Libre. Each week, our team discusses news and events from this past week, as well as preview the week ahead, covering Mexico-based promotions and top independents, along with luchador-related news from throughout the United States. The Lucha Central Weekly Podcast is part of the Lucha Central Podcast Network on luchacentral.com. This podcast and others from the network are also available on all major podcast platforms, including Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, iHeart, Podbay, and Speaker. And we have just recently been added to the Chairshot radio network, so you can also find this on thechairshot.com. I'm Miranda Morales, one of the co-hosts of the Lucha Central Weekly Podcast, and let me bring in my two team members. Introducing first, he is the dashing one, Mr. Dusty Murphy. Dusty, how's it going today?
It's going great. How's it going for you, Miranda?
I'm doing very, very well. As anyone who catched the beginning of the show noted, not enough 5-hour energy drinks in the world apparently right now to help me out. And I've been trying, so we'll see how this show goes for me tonight. But we can't do this show without the third member of this trio team, and that's who?
Who?
It is the one and only Brendan Barr.
That's who.
Oh man, you totally could do it without me, but I appreciate you trying to pretend like you couldn't.
No, this is a team effort. This is our trios. This is our team. So I'm so happy, as always, that we get to do this together. Speaking of stuff that we did together, we watched Expo Lucha this past Saturday.
Heck yeah, we did.
It did the whole shebang, and we did a wrap-up of Expo Lucha on Saturday as well. You can find that on Lucha Central's YouTube page. In that, we kind of did a wrap-up with a summary of a lot of topics that were talked about, including the interviews, some of the fun segments, and the announcements that were shared. But there were a few things that we didn't have time to mention that we wanted to take today to talk about, especially at the opening of this show. So I'm going to hand it off to Brendan and Dusty to mention just a few things about Expo Lucha that we didn't get to talk about during the wrap-up.
Well, we skipped the whole first segment there, which was the what the heck is NFT.
The non-fungible tokens.
I felt really bad about it because the interviewee was immediately on YouTube. He had watched the wrap up and he commented right away. So we apologize profusely. We weren't overlooking you. It was a long day. I was very interested by the whole concept of non-fungible tokens.
Cool. Yeah.
And then I went and looked at the news stories on it. This is becoming a big deal in technology, and
100%.
It's kind of divisive. Some people are calling it a pyramid scheme, but other people are saying this is the future of artist empowerment because of like things they talked about there, where an artist can put this and what does NFT stand for again, Dusty? I'm sorry.
I think it's non-fungible token.
Okay. So they can put this mark on something, and they can, if they set it up the way from what they were saying during this interview, if they set it up, the artist can get royalties for every time that changes hands. So even if like a Russian bot buys this thing to try and sell it for millions of dollars, the artist can turn around, can still get a payoff when that Russian bot sells it later. So I mean, it's a very interesting concept.
Yeah.
And Master Public is trying to get in on this. That was part of the reason this was on our on the Expo Lucha, is they will be having a series of art and posters and other possibly even comic books. I mean, he didn't say that out loud, but I caught some hints there.
Yeah, I did too.
and so they're hopping onto this NFT train. I'm not going to call it a bandwagon. I think it's a train moving at full speed at this point. And they wanted to get people in on the ground floor. So I believe you can still go to Master Public's web pages and find the link and sign up for the email releases, and they will let you know when stuff is happening. They're going to give a few freebies away. Well, at least one. In the first 48 hours after Master Public goes live, there'll be a poster that anybody who pre-signed up will get for free. So there's your reason to sign up ahead of time.
Very cool.
That is awesome. Yes, and we'll be getting more into the matches that we saw a little bit later on. But there's a great article on luchacentral.com that gives a wrap up as well of all of the things that were covered during Expo Lucha. So go to luchacentral.com, and of course, you check out our wrap up video. We did cover a lot of stuff as far as our thoughts and views of things that stuck out to us and captured our attention. But Expo Lucha, for the love of lucha, was a really great expo. A lot of fun with some fantastic interviews. Really cool matches, a great blend of, true independence and kind of big time matches. Mm-hmm. The panels were great as well. And just so much more. So you can watch the full Expo Lucha on Lucha Central's YouTube page. And you can fast forward, rewind, go forward, backwards throughout the whole thing. Including the Ring of Love game show, which I hosted.
That's my favorite part.
Yes.
I wasn't going to let you off. You were going to try and transfer. I'm going to be like, no, we're talking about you doing the Ring of Love.
I was your game show hostess with the mostest, as I helped Lucha Libre fan Lizzie help find her love within 3 luchador bachelors, which included Black Taurus, Mr. Iguana, and Bad Dude Tito. So it's a great segment. You can watch it online at the Lucha Central YouTube page. You can see who ended up winning Lizzie's heart. And an announcement from Kevin Kleinrock as well is that the date was originally scheduled to be a virtual date. However, looks like plans are still a go for a live Expo Lucha in Philadelphia this June. So the plan is now to have that date be in person in June. So, check out expolucha.com for information about the next Expo Lucha that is scheduled for June 10th and 11th in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania.
At the historic arena, too.
Yeah.
It's gonna, It's unfortunate. It was supposed to be there last year for the anniversary of ECW bringing in all of the luchadors, but, stupid pandemics happened, and so we're getting it a year late, but it's still in the historic arena. It still has that significance. Definitely going to be a very cool event.
Yeah, absolutely. So make sure you check out expolucha.com for more information. Of course, luchacentral.com as well. And keep listening to this show because we're going to give you the updates on everything happening with Expo Lucha in the future. Up next, we got to kick off our shows the way we've always been doing it, and that is the road back to shows with Brendan.
Oh boy, yeah. So this was an interesting week. So we're going to start the way we always start. Mexico City is still orange. The reason that is relevant though is this week, or during this news cycle for us, there was a small little protest in Mexico City of about 50 luchadors, including Fantasma himself, who were trying to petition the government to allow Lucha Libre to happen. They basically were pointing out that they've got many luchadors who've been honest and doing things the way they're supposed to and not going to secret shows and all that other stuff have not had an opportunity to work in just about a year now. So, they're a little anxious to get back to their craft, their passion, and that was kind of what was going on there. Phantasma, and this is Santos Escobar's father, also the commissioner of Lucha Libre. So just for people who are not clear, that's Phantasma said he is hoping about 15 days that we might start seeing some Lucha Libre, which is kind of leading to other things too. That leads into me reminding everybody that CMLL is doing a closed doors pay-per-view this weekend. By the time you hear this, it will be just about time to watch that pay-per-view, but if you need help getting the tickets set up, it's on Ticketmaster Mexico's site. It is a video on demand option, so you're going to have to be able to watch it live or you're going to be kind of out of luck. But we will have results on Lucha Central, so if you miss it, we will have your updates for you. So we've got that for sure is going to happen. There's talk about empty arena shows, but also there's talk about having, 30% capacity shows start happening again. Dusty's been following what things AAA's been doing, and CMLL will hopefully be CMLL makes the most money when they can have butts and seats and people buying snacks and t-shirts and other things in the arena. So they definitely want to have fans back in the arena. So we will keep you informed on how that plays out. 15 days is what Phantasma was promising, but it's up to the Mexican government, and sometimes things move at the speed of bureaucracy. So we'll keep you up to date on that. Speaking of bureaucracy and government, unfortunately for our amusement, Blue Demon and Caristico have quietly been removed from the ballots for their political races. Tinieblas is still on board, but both Blue Demon and Caristico have been removed from the ballots. The party representative, when asked about it, said that this was more to do with the internal voting, and the people that were involved in the party thought that other candidates might be a better fit for the job. There's some speculation that it may be related to all of the talk of you have to use your real names. We know that Blue Demon, that was kind of a stopping point for him, and probably Caristico as well. Mm-hmm. So it's interesting. I mean, and of course, there's also, to be fair, and all of the involvement on it, there's also speculation that Blue Demon was being taken off the ballot because of the accusations put up against him by his wife, mm-hmm. Which is just generally not a good look for the beginning of a political cycle. So, just all honesty on that. But the net effect is still the same. They don't seem to be moving forward with the election with those two. So it's down to you, Tinieblas. I believe in you. And then I just quick little. I didn't have a lot on this, but I heard this rumor that Daga was having some Instagram pictures posted from Florida, which it is kind of a hub for wrestling right now. So I'm if this is true, we could see him pop up now and again in some places, and I am down with that idea. I don't know about you guys.
Yeah, that's exciting. He has a very fluid style that I think would work well with the American style. Well, it has, like on Impact and stuff.
Yeah, I was going to say. And I think is one of those pictures the one that's been circulating with him and Tessa training with Bailey and Sasha?
That is definitely one of the pictures.
Okay. That's the one that's getting a lot of that most traction for multiple reasons. Especially Daga's been more active as far as working a lot more recently on independent shows. So it does make sense that we're seeing him more. But let's be honest, that is the picture that's been getting so much buzz recently.
Yeah, just him in Florida in general is enough to start the speculation train running, because both major companies are operating out of there, and a bunch of indies are there. We're still getting ready for WrestleMania week, which will have a number of indie cards, and if he's there, that means he could pop up in a number of shows in 1 week.
The possibilities are exciting there.
Yeah.
It's so multifaceted with his talent and also so much going on.
Yep.
It'll be interesting to see if he and Tessa are a package deal or if it's just him, or I think that'll be interesting for his trajectory going forward as well.
I mean, I don't want to say that he would do better on his own, hands down.
Yeah, that's kind of what I didn't want to say, but I 100% agree. He would do better on his own.
But it's kind of always true. Like, trying to bring somebody along with you just means that if the person isn't interested in that other person for whatever reason, then it's a harder buy. So who knows? I think it would be a fine deal. I think a lot of people could do a lot of good things with Tessa as well, but definitely I think if push came to shove, the just one of them, I think Daga should be okay with saying sorry, but this is my career I got to worry about here.
Yeah.
I'm sure they're both at that level. To be honest, even though they both left Impact, I think going forward in the future that each one of them respectively is going to evaluate which options are going to be best for them, because this, really will be the next step. And that may look different for both of them. Whatever is next is one step closer to, whatever big milestone is next in their careers.
Well, yeah, I mean, so we'll just use a little quick fantasy booking here on that. Tessa showing up in AEW would be a huge move for her career and a huge move for AEW, whereas Daga showing up in AEW, he may not be as high up on the card as she would be.
Correct.
So it would be, there would be reasons to experiment with that. And yeah, that's what we're saying. I am not in any way disparaging either of those two. I think they both have fantastic upsides for any company that wants to work with them.
Yeah.
But that is my indie roundup. Oh, sorry, no, that is my road back to shows. I'm looking at the next segment already.
Yes. Let's get into the indie roundup.
All right, so indie roundup. I'm just pretty much going to focus on the great Expo Lucha matches we had. So as we talked about at the top of the show, there was kind of a mix of indie content that was from a Masked Republic pay-per-view that had never before been given away for free, and then there was brand new, never before seen Lucha Time content. I'm just going to go over this. Some people may have been wondering why I keep doing recaps of Lucha Time, so I'm going to give you the whole pitch here. Lucha Time is a indie promotion operating out of Monterrey. They are, which is the north, what we've talked about with Jerry Villagrana before, about how they have their own kind of wrestling culture. They've produced a number of lucha legends in that general region, and they're kind of using that tradition to bring in students for sure. And they are looking at sometime in 2021 to start a small cycle of matches here in the United States. And Kevin hasn't given me a lot of details on it yet, but there's something brewing with the Masked Republic. Like he's dropped that hint before. He said a couple of times that he's going to get stuff, and then we got these exclusive matches out of them for this. So definitely one of the reasons why I've been watching their product and keeping an eye on them is because I'm kind of waiting to see what big things pop out of this. So we got 4 different matches out of Lucha Time. We had a 6-man match with King Rex, Ray Leon, and Mr. Puma versus Kratos, Dragon King, and Alex Black. This is kind of a standard match for them. They have these 6 guys plus a couple other guys that they usually do in either traditional tag matches or 6-man tag matches, usually somewhere in the middle of the card. They're all very good guys. They all have good chemistry together. So I felt like they were really trying to put a good foot forward by giving you these 6 guys in a good 10 minutes worth of action. I think this might have been your guys' first time to see this. Do you have any of matches that popped into your head where any of the wrestlers, did they stand out, or doesn't have to be this match? I'm just
Lucha Time had the Mummy, right?
Yeah, the Mummy.
Yes.
They had whoever was it, the T-Rex, the dinosaur.
Yeah.
I kind of was like, this is the Wish version of Luchasaurus.
He was a little like the Wish version of Luchasaurus.
Yeah.
You had I believe that was Dragon King that came out. Yeah.
Yeah.
The
trio.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In the trios match, and then the Mummy was in a match with Hijo de Dos Caras. So this is
Alberto's brother.
Alberto's brother. He's the he's kind of the invading bad guy in the promotion. So that match with him and the Mummy was like him kind of being like the outsiders for those that are looking back to the old WCW days. Kind of that sort of gimmick was going on. There's one other match that I thought that I really liked. There was Prometeo and Baby Extreme. And Baby Extreme is one that Jerry said is somebody to keep an eye on, somebody that I've been seeing big things from. Kevin said this is a big one. So if you guys watch one of the Lucha Time matches and it's not the Mummy, it probably should be this Baby Extreme match. He's a hot up and comer, and I think he's going to be one of the next big talents that comes out of Monterey. And then the one match we haven't talked about yet is we had Origin, Toxin, Epidemus, and Fulgore in a 4-way match, which again is just kind of a big chaotic match. So Lucha Time has like a couple of different flavors that they do. They have got some heavy brawling guys. They've got these young high flyers. And that's what you were getting kind of out of that 4-way is Origin, Toxin, Epidemus, and Fulgore are all guys that will find any excuse to jump to the top turnbuckle and throw themselves at somebody, and hopefully they hit somebody. But because you're watching young guys that are not always as safety conscious as the veterans, is how I'm going to put this. Sometimes they will miss, and you got a little hint of that in this match too. That there were some splashes and over the top rope moves that just went straight to the canvas on the outside. But so that was we got 4 really good matches out of Lucha Time, and then we had a couple more matches off of this Mass Republic card, and we all talked about this. There was one standout, which was the main event, LA Park and Dr. Wagner. I'm going to let you guys chime in on that one real quick.
I mean, that was just a fun match to watch, and being able to see those two legends in the ring with that dynamic. I know Dr. Wagner's a mask was very much in play with that. That was something that was like, trying to get pulled off, which I think you had mentioned, Brendan had alluded to a mask versus mask match that like at one point seemed like it was going to be planned, but also didn't look like it was ever going to happen. So that made sense after you told me that. Like that's why there was so much of that mask play in the match.
Yeah, both sides. Wagner was trying to take Park's mask off too.
Yeah.
And they definitely were building. They still say they want to do a mask versus hair match.
That'd be cool.
They have to be in the same place at the same time for longer than a cup of coffee for that to happen, but it would be very cool. As people who are fans of these wrestlers might figure, this was mostly a brawl, and as Miranda mentioned, there was a lot of spots around the mask. I believe at least one of them the mask came off, but there was not a foul called to end the match. It's a little more. This American ref is a little more forgiving of taking off masks than they might be in Mexico. Fun match. Another one that was fun for me was the Matt Cross when he was the Spartan Matt Cross against Cassandro. So you had this kind of very interesting storytelling going on with this hyper masculine Matt Cross character and Cassandro and everything that Cassandro brings to the table. And you were thinking like they talked about in the Cassandro interview, or at least I was, okay, this is going to be the thing where Cassandro is going to use speed and technical ability to get an advantage on that. But no, Cassandro did a lot of just going toe to toe with Matt Cross, and that really worked for pulling you into the match a lot more.
Absolutely. He made it look effortless.
Yes.
I mean, Cassandro is a fantastic wrestler and worker. Like, just the crispness and the fluidity of his work is so impressive when you see him in a setting like this.
Well, and it's great that they had this match in particular shown, because it goes into the interview he did with Denise Salcedo, and she specifically asked him about his training and background and how he really changed the perception of Exoticos, where, Cassandro mentioned that when he was growing up and training, he was trained to be a wrestler. And the Exotico character and persona just came more from his own personality, but that he made it a point to not just go in the ring and be flamboyant, but actually work. And I feel like that is very, very clear in this match and what makes him stand out. And even just changing the way that people view Exoticos and how they even train is, being able to be very technical and a great work rate in their performances in the ring. So I felt like this match in particular was great to showcase what they talked about in his interview. I think this was later on.
Well, the interview was right after that match.
Okay.
So, it was direct, and I really liked that was how they lined up on Expo Lucha. We got that match, and then we got the interview, so you really could see and have that in your head while Cassandro's talking about all of those facts, that he was trained to be a luchador, not an exotico. He wanted to go out and really he was being a wrestler and doing the best thing that wrestlers can do, which is finding something of themselves, turning it all the way up to 11, and making that kind of their signature look and feel. And and that's you could really see it in that match, which is what I thought. And I mean, I didn't even remember Matt Cross being Spartan Matt Cross, but because that was such a nice touch to have this hyper masculine character to play off of Cassandro that way too.
Yeah.
And then of course there was the match that I told everybody to stop talking to me. There was Solar versus Negro Navarro. I have seen these guys live at Expo Lucha going toe to toe. I watched this one. It's something new and something different every time, and it's part of the fantasticness of this. You have two technical masters who are from that very old school lucha style, which almost nobody in the United States associates with lucha anymore because of the kind of acceptance of the this West Coast lucha and the Texas lucha, to use Miranda's. I'm never going to let that go, Miranda.
I was going to say, it's like, I hope that's a good thing.
Yeah.
That's just how sometimes I need to break things down.
Yeah.
It's geographical, just kind of sometimes put them in their respective buckets.
Yeah.
Because that's for me. I just got to simplify things because, I'm a
But-
squirrel. I just get distracted too easily.
Yeah, but these guys represent old school Mexico City wrestling, which, like I say, it doesn't come up here as much as I would like it to. They brought, Mass Republic and a couple other people brought Blue Panther. Negro Navarro comes up here and teaches, so we get the privilege of seeing him. And Solar Jr. will do indie shows in the States, but a lot of the time they're not going against each other because, you can't afford to put two legends on your card all the time. It's just
true.
But yeah, I really appreciated this. This was it's a no-brain booking. You put them somewhere near the top of the card and you let them just go at it, and the crowd is just going to eat it up. Especially at a Mass Republic or a lucha-centric kind of crowd, they all have the knowledge to be blown away by this kind of match instead of thinking this is the time to go refresh your soda. And then I'll swing back around to, I don't know if we can call him a friend of the show, but Ultimo Pando was on the card as well. We kind of
frenemy of the show, maybe.
Yes, frenemy.
We kind of spent a lot of time trash talking the Ultimo Panda at this point. But Ultimo Panda and Latino Dragon were in a match against Halloween and Frightmare. And I mean, once again, Ultimo Panda does always make me realize that I need more panda wrestling in my life. So
That's true. You never know how much you need until you get it and you realize you want more.
Yeah, like I mean, so at Expo Lucha, a lot of the time that Ultimo Panda was in the ring, he was doing a couple of his fun spots. He was, he was hugging kids and generally being, but this was a physical contest. They were in there really, both teams were really fighting to win in this. There wasn't a lot of Panda silliness, but there's still Panda awesomeness. And then, Hallowicked and Frightmare were a good good tag team kind of anchor against them. It was kind of a fun match.
Yeah. Any match with Ultimo Panda is a lot of fun.
Very true.
I don't mean to make it sound like a surprise, just and then you have your super indie, but still kind of lucha match that most people who don't watch a lot of lucha will probably watch this one and enjoy it, which was Orange Cassidy, Chuck Taylor, and I'm gonna Papadon, I believe is yeah. And then against Green Ant, Ophidian, and Almasis. So like that's there was a period of time on the indies where you couldn't have an indie card without at least one of these guys on your card.
It's true.
And then once we Green Ant lost the mask gimmick and did some other things, I heard a rumor that Green Ant and Tracy Williams have never been in the same room at the same time. You still have that. You still have a lot of that. And so this for me was less of a match for me because it wasn't a super lucha match, but it still was a very fun indie match that has several masked gimmicks and a lot of lucha style spots on there for sure. So it was still a really fun match. What did you guys think of this one?
I just agree with a lot of what you said. I think it's a lot of fun.
It was fun, and it reminded me how much fun Chikara used to be. It's easy to kind of forget that, but I really loved Chikara. And lot of people came through there that you see now that are bigger too, which
Mm-hmm.
kind of reminded me of the whole thing. Like Lindsay used to be there, and Cesaro back when he was Claudio, and
Yeah.
it was just kind of nostalgic for me in that way.
Yeah, that's a good word for it. I had a lot of nostalgia watching that because,
Yeah.
like I said, there was a time where you couldn't not see these guys on indie cards, and that's not a bad thing. But like seeing them all in one match, like, oh yeah, I remember what this was like. This is fun. And then you had our more Texas style lucha match is the last one. I mean, so this isn't in order. You have to make it all the way to the end of the show to get the Solar versus Negro Navarro guys. I mean, the good news is it's all pre-recorded now, so you can fast forward. But the last of the indie style matches that we had off that Mass Republic card had Black G's, Ruckus, and Homicide against Bestia 666, Damien 666, and Sabu. I mean, and if you can't tell by listening to one half of this card what kind of match this was,
Yes.
you probably need to drink a little more caffeine or something because you're not awake. It was in a lot of ways what you would expect. In some ways it wasn't all the way what you would expect because I've seen these guys shoving skewers in each other's heads, and Sabu has never met a stunt that he wasn't afraid of. But so it didn't go to that level of extreme that you would immediately think, but it didn't need to. It was, you had some really athletic guys on the other side, so they were trying a lot more to wrestle, although Homicide is also a brawler and deathmatch guy. But so it never went, you never went all in on the carnage, but at the same time it was always there and it was a huge part of the match. I don't know. What did you guys think of this one?
I agree with what, like, when you see it on paper, you're like, this is going to be insane. But it didn't get to that level, which I think it still was a great match. Like, I'm in some ways, I'm glad because that way, too. When it gets to more of like a level where you can appreciate the wrestling and you still get it without all of, the craziness of what it could be, it kind of surprises you in a good way. So I felt like that was just my overall sense. I was surprised in a good way that it didn't go to that extreme.
I thought the same thing, and I liked how accessible that it kind of made the match for something like Expo Lucha, because you're going to have a lot of people that are turned off by the hardcore deathmatch style, and we got some hints of that, enough to keep the hardcore fans interested, but we also got a very accessible match that people that are checking out Lucha for the first time or Expo Lucha for the first time won't be turned off by the match either. So that was kind of an important. And I thought that was a great way to play it. They walked the line just perfectly, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, that's an excellent point. That it was a perfect match for an Expo Lucha crowd. It was, a little bit of something for everybody, a little bit of that Texas style. I'm going to keep using that, Miranda.
I like it.
But because it was accessible like that, you didn't feel like you had to take the kids out of the room, or I wasn't watching it like I was watching that Chessman match at Triple Mania where it through one eye. You guys, if you watch our live reaction feed to that, I literally was not watching half of that match. So, which is much better than this. I was able to actually watch this and engage with this whole match. So that's an excellent point, Dusty.
Oh, thank you.
So that's it. Like I said, I only focused on the Expo Lucha matches this time because we had so darn many of them. But as always, if you are an indie promoter, an indie wrestler, a Lucha fan that happens to have been at a really cool show, shoot me some links. We'll give you the socials later. I'll watch it. We'll put it on the indie roundup. And who knows? Maybe it'll wind up on a playlist at some point too, or something. We have We have a Facebook group now, so you can even just post your links in the Facebook group, and I will be checking that out. Dusty, do you happen to remember what the name of the Facebook group is?
It's the Lucha Central Weekly News.
There we go. So look, if you're on Facebook, well, when we'll do this again at the end of the show, but that's a great place to post your links too, if you don't want to send it to me for whatever reason.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All you have to do is request to be added to the group, and then one of the administrators will add you, and then there you'll be able to add whatever links. So yeah, videos or posters. But again, I mean, with that caveat of Brendan's, you have to be running a safe show. So he reserves the right to not feature if your event is not following any social distancing guidelines.
And the reverse of that's true. I will more likely feature you if you can tell me all the cool safety things you're doing, because I want to see people working, but I want to see them working safely.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Brendan, for the road back to shows and the Indie Roundup. Next off, we're going to kick it off to Denise Salcedo, who brings us this week's Lucha Central.
Why should you visit thechairshot.com? Thechairshot.com is your home for hard-hitting reviews, news, opinion, and analysis with attitude. Why? Because you're smarter than the average fan. Thechairshot.com. Always use your head.
Hey everyone, it's Denise Salcedo here in Lucha Central with a reminder of where and when to catch all of the great network content this week. Get the full lineup and listen to all of our shows in the podcast network section of luchacentral.com. On Tuesdays, Mats, and Mayhem takes you inside the world of Lucha Underground as they take you weekly through the series with the benefit of hindsight and the benefit of special guests from the groundbreaking series. Check out the premiere video stream every Tuesday at 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern on the Lucha Central YouTube channel and at luchacentral.com. Then listen to it on your favorite podcast platform every Wednesday. Tuesday nights live, it's Wrestle Boss, where Fabi Chulo talks MMA and pro wrestling with special guests and listener call-ins. Visit WrestleBossLive.com Tuesday nights at 7 p.m. Pacific to listen live or call in with questions or download the show on podcast platforms on Wednesdays. Wednesday nights live on Facebook, it's Spanish show La Mesa de los Márgaros, giving you both the news and the chisme from around the lucha world. Special guests and a whole lot of fun make it one of the most talked about shows in Mexico. Thursdays, it's Straight Out of the Bodega with Papo Esco and PWR promoter Gabriel Ramirez, as they have guests from throughout the wrestling world pull up to give an inside look into their careers. From indie standouts to television superstars, each week brings a new name and perspective. On Friday, it's your double dose of Lucha Central Weekly podcast, one in English y el otro en español. Lucha Central Weekly is where you'll find all the top stories of the week, both inside and out of the ring from Mexico and anywhere luchadores are in action across the globe. Be sure to subscribe and follow all your favorite Lucha Central Network series on your favorite podcast platforms, either by their own series name or subscribe to the Lucha Central Podcast Network show pages to get all of the shows in one easy feed. And please consider giving a rating to help more fans find the shows that you love. For now, this is Denise Salcedo signing off from Lucha Central. Have a great week.
Lucha-Masks.com by Pro Wrestling Revolution, bringing you in partnership with Mask Republic, the Lucha Brothers, as well as Japanese legend Ultimo Dragon. Go to lucha-masks.com and fight Lucha Strong with masks from your favorite Lucha legends and Pro Wrestling Revolution luchadores. Stay safe in style and represent your favorite luchador. Get yours now at lucha-masks.com, powered by Pro Wrestling Revolution.
A big thank you to Denise Salcedo, who brings us this week's Lucha Central, and also just a big congratulations to her on her fantastic interview with Cassandra from this week's Expo Lucha. It was very informative. It was heartwarming. They just have a great chemistry and dynamic.
Yeah.
And you can find a lot of her interviews on Lucha Central's YouTube page and at luchacentral.com. But a big congratulations to her and her interview with Cassandro from this week's past Expo Lucha. But we're gonna go ahead.
Oh, I just wanted to add some praise on there too. It was really great. I said it on our roundup. I thought that was the best one of the best matches of interview and interviewee.
Yes.
They really made something special happen.
Yes. Well, we're going to jump into this week's WWE news. Of course, we had Raw and SmackDown, but I mean, you got to listen. There's some big news that happened. We're going to talk about it in just a few minutes, but I mean, yes, it was kind of a crazy week in WWE.
It really was. First up, strange things, crazy things. SmackDown, we had the Mysterios. First up, we had Rey and Dominic versus the Street Profits in a tag team match for not necessarily number one contendership, but at least to be checked out by the SmackDown tag team champions, the Dirty Dogs, Dolph Ziggler and Robert Roode, not Bobby anymore. And But anyway, so they had the match with Street Profits. This did not connect for me. It was not a great match. It felt a little choppy, and it was somehow missing the live element for me. It felt like it was clips of matches strung together, maybe. It just felt very disjointed for me, and it was not great. Dominic wins with the surprise roll-up. Afterwards, Alpha Academy come out. They, talk some trash, run Rey and Dominic down. Rey and Dominic are able to get the literal drop on them with a couple of suicide dives, and we go to commercial. We come back, and somehow we've got a match between the Mysterios and Alpha Academy. It was made during the commercial. We were not privy to this. It was already going on when we came back. I didn't care for that either. And it was largely just an excuse for Street Profits and the Dirty Dogs to talk trash at each other in commentary. Then afterwards, they made the Mysterios just kind of look awful, and Alpha Academy picked up the win. But then both Street Profits and Alpha Academy argued with Ziggler and Roode, and the Mysterios vanished from the screen. And, this was not good. Whoever booked this, whoever wrote this, they should have their nose rubbed in it. It was terrible. I mean,
Bad writing.
They can do so much better, and they just refuse for whatever reason. They've got we talk about all the time, some of the best people in the world, and there is a way to get Alpha Academy rather, over without having to kind of make the Mysterios look like chumps to do it. It really kind of wrecks the momentum, and Dominic was such a hot prospect when he debuted at SummerSlam. Everybody was so excited. Now people are like, Dominic, he's not going to win. It's just got a weird feel to it, and I hope they can get his momentum back on track. We'll see what happens coming up, but at this point, I don't even know if we see the Mysterios at WrestleMania. I assume we do because they're going to want that payday somehow, but I don't think we see them in any significant placement. And then, Raw, we didn't actually have any Lucha-relevant action on Raw this week, but Raw superstar Lince Dorado lost his grandfather this week, and he has a GoFundMe to help with the expenses and the travel to send his grandfather back to Puerto Rico. And so if anybody wants to go check that out on his social media, on Instagram, he's Lince_Dorado, and on Twitter, he is at LuchadorLD. And now, in our big news, we have Andrade. He is free at last. News continued to evolve at a rapid pace within the Andrade release situation that we reported on last week. The past Sunday, March 21st, former NXT champion Andrade was finally granted his release from WWE after being declined. As we've seen with most top guys from NXT, the main roster just had no idea what to do with Andrade, and he languished in the mid-card purgatory, and then he languished in the Groundhog Day scenario in the tag division on Raw, when he and Zelina were joined by fellow luchador Angel Garza in an endless tandem with Street Profits all summer long that never got them the gold. It was just not great. And the most obvious reason for this, for WWE at least, is their about face on his release seems to be related to Charlotte. If you're a member of the Lucha Central Weekly News Facebook group, you'll remember that I did some research with the U.S. Trademark Office, and Charlotte and Andrade both trademarked non-WWE names at the same time after a Thanksgiving dinner with Ric Flair and Conrad Thompson in 2019.
Yeah.
Andrade trademarked La Sombra for American use, and Charlotte trademarked both Ashley Flair and the Queen of Professional Wrestling. So there were mild rumors at the time that they were looking at other options because Andrade wasn't getting any traction in WWE, but nothing ever came of it. But now we have Andrade requesting his release. Charlotte was mysteriously removed from the WrestleMania poster. Rhea Ripley was moved up to Raw 3 weeks before the pay-per-view, and Charlotte, in the meantime, had been completely unmotivated on TV. But then, despite an edict that superstars not reveal their COVID status online, Charlotte comes out on social media after Andrade's release is announced and says that she had COVID, and that's why we haven't seen her. That's where she's been. However, internet chatter went wild when she said this. Many people assumed or even accused Charlotte of saying she had COVID to sit out and force WWE's hand, or that the COVID diagnosis was a convenient excuse that they had come up with together, her and WWE, and she had stayed home because of Andrade, but now that it's solved, she's coming back. So what do you guys think? Charlotte was definitely involved in this, right? Like, I think that this had to be a power play on her part. The timing is just too convenient and too coincidental for me.
I mean, it's a lot of things. I think it's hard for me to believe that the COVID announcement in any way is not authentic. Maybe she felt compelled to say it in order to help combat a lot of the rumors as to why she was gone. I think, though, I mean, at the end of the day, Charlotte's staying in WWE. You know, she is a staple in the women's division in the company.
She's the biggest deal they have.
Yeah. So I think I don't know if there was additional negotiations that had to happen, and we'll talk about this in a minute as far as where he's going next. But there was also speculation that he doesn't have a non-complete clause, which means he can
confirmed that
he can go.
Yeah,
but there is a conflicting report on that too.
I mean, that's still unsure of with that, but I feel like maybe she had a hand in just kind of being able to help navigate the waters. But I think, and what I mentioned last week, is that maybe there was some pressure from WWE. He publicly announced that he had asked for his release, which is not typical. So I feel like there was some pressure that got built up, for somewhere. Maybe it was Charlotte, maybe it was just in other areas to allow him to leave. And maybe some of that was agreeing to not maybe work for specific companies, or maybe saying that he, or that he was going to limit his options. Who knows? But it's definitely something that caught me by surprise. And like you mentioned, Dusty, evolved at a very rapid pace after, things were first announced.
So, I mean, this is just me kind of speculating with just the information that Dusty's already had. But when they said that the report came out that he didn't have a compete clause, made me think maybe part of the reason they finally decided to let him go was they actually talked to him about what he wants to do. Because if he's right, like if he said, no, I'm not going to go to AEW. I mean, I know everybody and their dog thinks that anybody that leaves WWE must get an AEW contract. But if he said, no, I'm not doing that, and he said, the popular choices right now would be is New Japan is the front runner.
Yes.
Yeah.
And if he said I'm just going to do New Japan and then pick up some indie dates in the United States, maybe they're like, okay, that's not a big enough deal for us.
Yeah.
And we'll let that go. So maybe that was part of it too. Is just once they finally started talking to him, instead of just taking the hardline stance of no, and maybe they came around on it.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see where he goes. And another part I thought was interesting was a couple of weeks ago, Thea Trinidad, formerly Zelina Vega, her non-compete ended, and we kind of thought we'd see her somewhere. She kind of implied we were going to see her somewhere, and then we didn't see her. Mm-hmm. And so I'm hoping or kind of wondering, if she knew that he was asking for his release and she's waiting for him. Because we talked about it before, coming in together isn't always a great idea, but these two together is money, and I would love to see them continue to be paired up together. It's the kind of charisma and synergy between them that you can't make happen. Like, it's just luck. And they are so good together, and she is so formidable as both a manager and a wrestler that you take her seriously, and they could go with anybody. I mean, like, so many opportunities once you get Thea Trinidad in the mix. So it'll be really exciting to see where this goes, too. I think that's why we haven't seen her anywhere yet or an announcement yet, was that she was waiting for him. And at least it seems to be the case, hopefully.
Yeah.
And I definitely think where we see him end up is Ring of Honor. That's where his family is.
Yep.
La Faction Ingobernable. Everybody, like you mentioned, everybody would love to see him in AEW. I just don't see the likelihood of that happening.
Correct.
Especially comparatively.
And, so to add, the reason why a lot of people think that New Japan is a big choice is he's had success working there. They worked well with him there before. He did like it there, and he would be free to do dates with Ring of Honor if he had signed a contract with New Japan. So there is lots of upside to that. Or he could go the other way and sign with Ring of Honor and do dates with New Japan because they have a working relationship. Yeah. So
yes. New Japan has always seen the value in Andrade / La Sombra, and so I think that's probably the most likely scenario. And I also think that with his appearance on CMLL Informa last year, that we could see him, maybe make a couple of courtesy appearances down there.
That is another strong rumor I heard, is that before he signs anywhere, he's going to go back to Mexico, do kind of a couple of stops. Cubs fan over on Lucha Blog had a very valid point on that, though. It's kind of a waste for him to do that until they can have fans in the arenas.
That's true, because he would be a stadium packer. People would be so excited to see him back. It's hard to remember because somehow he stayed kind of under the radar of American fans back then. But La Sombra was a big deal in Mexico City, big deal. And so it would be really exciting to see him go back, but like you say, it would be kind of disappointing if there wasn't a crowd there for the reception.
Yeah, very true. Well, we are just going to have to wait and see what happens with Andrade. You got to just keep listening to the Lucha Central Weekly podcast because we're going to keep our eyes out and open as to where Andrade La Sombra, however he's going to address himself, where he lands next. But speaking of next, we have this week in AEW.
Oh, right. We did a little bit of a switch up, and I forgot that I was running AEW this week. So AEW started the week with Dark Elevation. It is again kind of a new show, but we did have a big match with Danny Limelight and Baron Black, as kind of Dusty likes to call them our highlight or feature matches of this. Danny Limelight so Baron Black is surprisingly well versed in the lucha style. I don't know where he trained at, but he was an excellent. I'm going to use a term here. He was an excellent base for Danny Limelight's high flying. There was a good pace to this match. This was the main event, by the way. Danny Limelight is in the main event on Elevation, so kind of a big deal.
Yeah.
I just, all in all, I thought this was a great match. It was a good use of both of these wrestlers. I'm more high on Baron Black than I was going into this match, and I don't think I could possibly be more high on Danny Limelight right now.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, they had some great mat work too. He had a good suplex. Then Baron Black had a Texas Cloverleaf. Like it was really cool. Like this was a really fun match, really interesting match, and you got to see a lot of variety and so many sequences of offense from Danny Limelight that were just fantastic.
Yeah.
And the big takeaway is Danny Limelight did win this match, so it seems like AEW has plans to use him in kind of a bigger, more formal way in the near future, because that's what Elevation is supposed to be about.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it seems like it's a mix too of just a spotlight and promo work and spotlight matches. So if this is the rhythm that they're going with Elevation, then it's starting to make a little bit more sense to me compared to the differences with Dark.
Right.
Yes. Yeah, they're getting their footing now.
Yeah, you definitely, it feels more like Elevation is the step between Dark and Dynamite. Like you can see more of the guys from Elevation on either show at this point is the feeling I get. Again, it's only a couple episodes, so who knows? That may change. Then we had Tuesday Night Dark, and the highlight match for that is Chaos Project in a tag team match. Come on. This time it was John Silver and Alex Reynolds. I mean, you know, it could have been almost anybody on the Dark roster, and it would have been a fun one. But this is a good matchup because Silver and Reynolds again they're versed in a little bit of the chaos, or not in the lucha style, and we're able to help Serpentico do some big things, make him look good
Silver
doing that.
And Serpentico had an amazing.
Yeah, I mean, they're Silver and Reynolds are both very good technical wrestlers, so they're in that kind of style that I personally enjoy. So I was eating this one. In fact, I didn't take notes on this match because I was just watching this match. So.
Yeah, I also liked when Taz was on commentary and he said, do you think Serpentico tries to get out of Chaos Project on a daily basis? Like, because, he's getting flung around. He's used as a weapon. But I loved it. And yeah, this was really great. The highlight for me was really that sequence with Silver and Serpentico. The finisher was great. John Silver hit a really nice release German suplex, and then he and Reynolds together hit a Dark Destroyer for the win. Like, as much as we mentioned Danny Limelight, I think that we're on a very upward trajectory for the Dark Order, and maybe on Dark, absolutely. But I think we're going to see a singles run for Silver soon.
I do feel like they're dipping their toe in the water for that. Mm-hmm. Especially since Dark Order is now kind of the very popular thing between, how can you hate a faction that has -1?
Yes, I love the idea of an evil child as the leader of an evil group, but they're not actually evil because he's a kid. Like, it's just so good.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and they've been playing that up more too. That it's more like they're a group of really good friends now. Like, I mean, even Colt is just like hugging people and out there. So it's they're definitely on the rise. And Silver is in particular seems to be riding that wave. So we could see a lot more of that coming out of there. Chaos Project is still technically on a winning record for tag team matches, so we could see them show up now and again in the mix for the tag team picture, which would be fun. It'd be an interesting thing. I mean, obviously they're not going to go super far in that because it seems like Chaos Project is just kind of there to make other people look really good, and they do a good job of that. But it'd be nice to see that, like to see Chaos Project and the Lucha Brothers. I'm just going to throw this fantasy book in.
Yes. Yes.
That would be so good. Well, and they pair up so nicely.
Right?
Pentagon and Luther and Phoenix. It's Pentagon. Yeah, story writes itself.
You can do lots of fun things with that. I'm just so by having them still kind of more on the winning ways, even though they've lost the last couple. You can do big things with them in the tag team picture, which is what I'm hoping to see. And then we're gonna move on to Dynamite. There wasn't a whole lot going on, although there was a huge thing that was going on.
Yeah.
Poor Pac. Poor Pac is injured again. I don't know how this poor guy just keeps doing this, because I mean he looks like an action figure and he should not be getting hurt this often. But
no, an ankle injury this time too.
Yeah,
It's disappointing.
He's out, and the guy that we've all on this show been saying needs to come back and work an angle with that Kenny Omega guy. I mean, I don't know if you guys have heard of him. Some guy named Kenny Omega holds the AAA Mega Championship, and so Laredo Kid is filled in for Pac, and here we go. So now we had a 6-man with the Laredo Kid and the Lucha Bros against it was the Young Bucks and Brand Cutler.
Yes.
I was so excited by other things that happened that I didn't even write down who they were wrestling against. I just went straight to the end of the match and how exciting all of that was. But it was it was super West Coast style, lots of flippy stuff, lots of super kicks, lots of people walking on ropes. Penta did not break any arms in this match, which did slightly disappoint. Gonna rewind this a little bit. Cody actually was selling his arm injury this week too, so I'm
yay for storyline continuity.
Yes.
But you had a good match. Did either of you get a chance to watch this one? Again, this was one I was hard for me to take notes on because I was too busy watching.
I
saw
just
some
really
clips.
I saw clips. I really just liked the Spanish Fly.
Yes.
At
oh
the
my
end,
gosh.
like
On
that.
the top rope.
Yes.
Yep. Laredo Kid made it look so beautiful.
Yeah.
So that is the one note I did have, is that the match did end with Laredo hitting a top rope Spanish Fly on Brandon Cutler and getting the 1, 2, 3. And to you guys' point, it was freaking gorgeous. I mean, everybody else was out of the ring. They had been devastated by brawling and other things, and you got that. So that's big too, though, because this is Laredo Kid getting the win. Like, it's not.
Yes, he got the pin.
Yeah. And he got to look good for a hot second there.
Yeah.
So
and
maybe
it's the moment everybody remembers.
Yep, they remember that, and then they remember what happened next, which is Kenny Omega coming out, and the person he went straight after was the Laredo Kid.
Yeah.
Hits him with the belt. Yeah.
Yep. And then he comments. He remembers that he remembers him from AAA. He remembers him from the
Fighter Fest.
And continues to. So the angle that we were fantasy booking a while back, saying it'd be nice to see Laredo wrestle for that AAA Mega Championship, might be happening. I mean, I'm not going to let myself get too excited by this because I've been disappointed by wrestling so many times in the past year. It could be happening. And then after Kenny Omega said some things, I mean, they were mean things, so I barely was listening. The Lucha Bros beat him up and chased him away. So
some amazing super kicks, double super kicks. Yes. I mean, they kicked the shit out of Kenny Omega.
They really did. And what I loved about it was they kicked Kenny Omega so hard that Don Callis looked like he fell over.
It's true.
So it wasn't a big week for a lot of Lucha, but it was a huge week for what Lucha content we did get in Dynamite this week. We've got Laredo back. We've got the Lucha Bros being positioned to be a bigger deal and maybe having, so I don't.
Yeah, they're going to be the main event next week as well, from what I understand. Kenny and the Good Brothers versus the Lucha Bros and Laredo Kid.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah.
I love this.
And that's the other thing. A lot of people felt that Laredo Kid's momentum in America is one show, and then that's all you see them. So to get him 2 weeks in a row is already pretty exciting. And we'll report on that next week too. But yeah, it's already going to be a highlight match.
Well, results from AEW and WWE are available on luchacentral.com, so make sure if you missed any of that, you go to the website and you'll get your results. And as Brendan mentioned, not a lot of lucha content on AEW this week, but what we got was pretty impactful. A company that has lots of lucha content happening on a big show is Ring of Honor.
Oh yeah. So first off, before we talk about the big show that's coming up this weekend, probably by the time you're hearing this, actually, we're gonna talk about this week's show, which was setting it up. So we started off with Rey Horus in a match against Eli Isom, which they put over and over again, could have huge implications on the TV title division. This was Eli Isom's first return since the pre-COVID era, and so I kind of had a bad feeling that it wasn't going to be Ray's night because they kept talking about that. But and he did in fact get the win. But as you can imagine, because ROH loves good competitive matches, you got a good 10 minutes of action, and Eli Isom is a good matchup for Rey Horus. This was very fast, lots of high flying, lots of athletic moves, lots of rewinding because I blinked and I missed something. The TV title division looks to be in really good hands. There seems to be a lot of up and coming young talent in ROH's TV title division, and they reminded people again that you can only be a challenger in one singles division in ROH, and as many of the tags as you can find partners for. So, so these guys are firmly in the same division as Dragon Lee from LFI and Kenny King from LFI. So you've got, right, I mean, there's four huge names right there. I can't even tell you who else is in the division right now off the top of my head, but right there you've got a solid showing. So I was super excited by that match and thinking about all the possibilities that were going to happen. But also you had this massive main event. You had an 8-man tag match with LFI and the Foundation, and it's pretty much everything you would expect it to be. You had the Foundation trying to keep calm and do a respectable wrestling match in the middle of the ring, and you had LFI at every available opportunity insulting them or breaking the rules or flagrantly breaking the rules, and I mean just madness, and I was there for it. Like this was meant to hype up the big event that we were alluding to, the anniversary show.
Yes.
And it did that in a big way, because that's what's going to happen at the anniversary show is going to be another showdown between LFI and the Foundation. I mean, yeah, this is my one show that I'm saying you need to watch this week. This ROH episode was amazing. So on the anniversary show, there is a little bit of card subject to change, unfortunately. It is, as I said off the air, it was a tiny bit disappointing because it kind of, it's not the best fit for what happened. Dragon Lee, is out, and therefore they are scrambling around, but LFI is putting Kenny King in his place in the TV title defense. And then Bestia del Ring will be in his place in the tag team title defense. And they're still going to be going against the Foundation. It'll be Hot Sauce Tracy Williams going for the TV title. So there's a fifth great guy in that division. And then Tracy Williams and Rhett Titus will be challenging for the tag team against, now it'll be Kenny King and Bestia Del Ring. So still lots of great matches are going to happen. They've announced already also that the 6-man tag belts that Mexa Squad are going for are going to be in the first hour of the show, which will be free. So if you're really broke and your pockets are really tight, you can still see a great lucha match for free at the beginning of the show with Mexa Squad going for the 6-man title matches against Shane Taylor Promotions. I wanted to say Incorporated, and I knew that was wrong. So, so that's the ROH excitement. Miranda, do you remember the date and time for the?
Yes. The 19th anniversary show is actually going to be tomorrow, so that is Friday, March 26th. The first hour is free. That's starting at 8 p.m. Eastern Time on multiple platforms. You can find that information on ROHWrestling.com. And then at 9 p.m. is the actual anniversary show, which you can find exclusively on Honor Club, Pay-Per-View, and Fight TV. And yeah, the card is truly stacked. I'm also looking forward to this. I mean, we speculated even earlier. I'm sure there's going to be some buzz around, not just from the matches already, but who may show up. And this is one of the shows. The anniversary show last year got canceled, due to the pandemic just happening. So I do also feel like Ring of Honor is just very excited for this show because of the fact that, this is, a year in the making. So, again, the first hour is going to be free, and that's when we're going to see the Mexi Squad versus Shane Taylor Promotions. And then, starting at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 9 p.m. Eastern Time is when, the full show starts.
And I'm going to give you the inside scoop here. In my opinion, the best way to get it is going to be on the Honor Club. Mm-hmm. Through Ring of Honor's website, because you can pay $10 for the subscription, which will give you access to their library, so you can go back and watch their other lucha content.
Yes.
And then you'll get the entirety of the anniversary show. So, I mean, you don't have that $10 for the network anymore, so come on.
It's true.
Good point. Good point. Up next is our Masked Republic spot, and we talked a little bit more. We already kind of plugged Expo Lucha already, but also to let fans know that Expo Lucha does have some exclusive merchandise available for 1 week only, all in the tone of, for the love of lucha with that logo, which is super cool. And that's available at ProWrestlingTees.com. So it's only available for just 1 week. So that means by the time you may be listening to this episode, that time frame is dwindling down. So make sure you go to ProWrestlingTees.com for Expo Lucha content, especially just those exclusive, T-shirts. They have mugs, stickers, and a cool sweater as well, with that logo.
Also, Pile Driver Co. announced that they were doing a bunch of Masked Republic merch during Expo Lucha, and we've been seeing it pop up. It is pretty good stuff. That's Pile Driver Co. So you got to get otherwise there's another company that is just Pile Driver, which is a Japanese company. So you don't want, you do want that, but you also want this Pile Driver Co. They've got a bunch of t-shirt designs that they announced during Expo Lucha on social media. You can, Masked Republic social media has that for you if you need help finding it. It's pretty good looking stuff. And then also today, I don't know, did you see this, Dusty? They released some images for some more action figures.
No, I didn't.
I might be
She
confusing
did it.
things. Yeah, I might be confusing things, but I thought I saw some new boss fight action figure pictures going up today.
They
E-
released the Io del Perro Guayo a few
yeah,
days ago, so I wouldn't be surprised.
there we go.
Yeah, I hope to see all of them. Yeah, the Perro figure is going to be amazing. Like they have the side and back views, and it looks exactly like him. I mean, it's uncanny. I mean, it's
That's so good.
incredible. Yeah,
So good. Yeah, if you can't tell, we're excited about our toys here. We're not sorry about it.
not at all.
Your business may be small, but you've got big goals. Brother Laser Printers can help you succeed, no matter the space, task, or budget. From crisp black and white to vivid full color, our printers offer affordable quality you can trust. Plus, fast printing and high page yields make them ideal for home offices and shared workspaces. It's no wonder Brother is the #1 retail brand in laser printer unit sales in the U.S. With Brother at your side, go from small to do it all. Shop now at brother-usa.com/laser.
Okay. And that information can also be found at luchacentral.com. Up next, we have this week's NXT, and a lot happened. A good mix of matches and news regarding Stand and Deliver. We started off the show with Raquel Gonzalez and Dakota Kai versus Zoe Stark and Io Shirai. This came about after several weeks. Really, last week we had Dakota Kai versus Zoe Stark, in which Dakota Kai won that match. They were about to confront Zoe Stark when Io Shirai came out, not necessarily to defend Zoe Stark, but to confront Raquel Gonzalez. But we've already seen Io Shirai and Zoe Stark in a match themselves 2 weeks ago, so they already have a good rapport, good sense of good sportsmanship. And this was a great match. I continuously am so proud to see, West Coast alum Zoe Stark continuing to just be fantastic. She is also showcasing that West Coast high flyer style, even though she definitely has more of a brawler technical background. So that made this pairing with her and Io actually very good. But ultimately, Zoe received that one-handed power bomb from Raquel Gonzalez for the win. And then we saw Io Shirai and Raquel Gonzalez confront each other at the end of the match. That ended up with Raquel Gonzalez doing a power bomb to Io Shirai on the announce desk. So that, and Io it didn't break. So that's one of those things that's almost worse when the table doesn't break.
Yeah.
Because it pretty much that you still have all of that hard wood there, at the end. But they are really building this up, for Stand and Deliver, which also to include that it has been announced that the women's championship match will main event night 1 of Stand and Deliver. So this is going to be the main event of night 1, which is absolutely rightfully so.
Yeah, so excited. So glad that it's the main event.
Yes.
Yeah, it's going to be amazing.
It's gonna be great, and we still have 2 weeks, about a week, of build up for this. So who knows what else we're going to see from this. I'm very interested to see how this also impacts the dynamic between Dakota Kai and Raquel Gonzalez. As Brendan has noted, this has been a strong partnership now for a year. So now, and a lot of this was when Dakota was going after the championship, but now that Raquel is, what's going to happen?
And they're kind of dropping some hints on that.
Mm-hmm.
Like Dakota seems more fixated on going for the tag team championships right now and doesn't seem happy that Raquel seems to be more interested in the singles run. So yeah, that'll be fun.
Yeah. Speaking of the NXT Women's Tag Team titles, Shotzi Blackheart and Ember Moon, your reigning NXT Women's Tag Champions, faced Aaliyah, and who originally was supposed to be Jessi Kamea. She was out due to injury, so Aaliyah and Robert Stone recruited former Robert Stone client, Mercedes Martinez. And so she got back into the fold for just one night only. And that itself was a great match. I feel like that made this match that much more competitive. It was great to see Mercedes in this. Also just continued kudos to Aaliyah, who has grown a lot in her role. She landed a really great power bomb in this match. you even had some of the interference of Robert Stone. What kind of manager would he be if he didn't advocate for his clients? There was a great moment when Mercedes had a big boot to Shotzi Blackheart, and again, really seeing more of that brawler MMA style in her work, which is, something to combat a little bit more of the fast pace that we see from Ember Moon and Shotzi Blackheart. Ultimately, though, the tag champions retained, with Moon doing the Eclipse onto Aaliyah, and the match ending there. So it does seem like Shotzi and Ember are going to continue to feud with Candice and Indy. That seems like they're going to circle back around to that at some point, but we'll see. But it's also great to see Mercedes Martinez back in NXT where she belongs. Because, Retribution seemed like they broke up this past week, so that's good. But, I just, at the same time, I'm just glad that she's no longer a part of that. Speaking of big announcements, though, too, for Stand and Deliver, it was announced just this week that Danny Burch and Oney Lorcan would be forced to vacate the NXT Tag Team Championships. This is due to an injury that Danny Burch suffered at the hands of Karrion Kross last week. And so with that, it was announced that we are going to get a triple threat match at Stand and Deliver to crown new tag champions, which will include MSK, Grizzled Young Vets, and Legado del Fantasma. So that is my fantasy booking worked in my head. It all, you could have even added a 14 to it. But when you think about who's actually in that title match or title scene right now, those are the three teams that you think about. So a big opportunity for Legado del Fantasma. Really the first time that they're going to have that chance at the tag team titles. I'm so excited to see MSK in this, though. They are so good in the ring. To see MSK and Legado del Fantasma with those, both of them being kind of fast-paced high flyers, I'm just already grinning from side to side. I think it's going to be very, very fun.
And both of them, they haven't shown it in NXT, but both of them are good at that distraction outside the ring sort of tactic. So you can the maneuvering and wolf packing that the Legado del Fantasma, we have seen in NXT do that. Yeah. They're just as good at it. So you can see there's a lot of dimension that can happen in this matchup, and it's very exciting kind of styles telling the story matchup that I want to see.
Well, and then you have the Grizzled Young Vets who are also very great, but they're more that grappler style. So I think too that could also be almost the wild card factor in this, and that's how they can get the advantage. So who knows? I kind of think that they're going to lean more into MSK for this, just because they've already won the Dusty Cup. But I would also, would love to see Legado del Fantasma as tag champions. That would really, really get to the core. And we'll talk about what's going to be happening with the Cruiserweight Championship, but it is very possible that Legado del Fantasma is covered in gold by the end of Stand and Deliver.
That's actually, that's my prediction, is that they're gonna win this, and MSK will wind up having to chase them, and Santos will have the belt too, and there'll be the power promotion. And that's not just my wishful thinking. I feel like that would be a really good.
It's a good spot to be in. Again, the Undisputed Era is done. So what other big faction do you have in NXT right now? Really nothing. Yeah. So might as well.
I love that idea.
But I interrupted you before you got to the other cool news, so carry on. I'm sorry.
Going into what happened with the tag titles, Danny Lorcan demanded a match against Karrion Kross, kind of to get revenge on him on how he hurt Danny Burch. So we did get that. A lot of this action was outside of the ring, of course. I mean, it's Karrion Kross. He's just gonna murder people, and that's just what he does. With a quick win, again with that forearm to the back of the head, with the win. Afterwards, he called out Finn Balor, who came out, and they just kind of continue their back and forth. Very heated promos, very just cold and direct, and I really love the intensity between these two competitors. I think it's going to make what they do at Stand and Deliver that much better. And it also was announced that they're going to headline night 2 of Stand and Deliver. So you have those two lucha-oriented, background wrestlers headlining both nights of Stand and Deliver, which I think is really, really great.
Love it. Love it.
But this is probably the most interesting aspect, I think, of NXT, and that's the setup for what we're going to see between Jordan Devlin at Santos Escobar at Stand and Deliver. We knew the match was going to happen, but this week we found out how. So Jordan Devlin was in a match against Kushida. During that match, though, you had Raul Mendoza and Joaquin Wilde go out for the distraction. However, that did not distract Jordan Devlin, and he still was able to win his match. But then afterwards, Santos Escobar came out to confront him and really continue, who is the real cruiserweight champion. And then something happened. The music of one HBK Shawn Michaels comes out. And this was a promo in which HBK did not say anything, but he did do something very, very interesting. He came out, went to the ring, pulled the ring skirt up, and pulled out a ladder and shoved it into the middle of the ring. And anyone who knows. This is a huge nod to history between Shawn Michaels and Razor Ramon for the Intercontinental Championship. And that just... so many memories and ideas flooded in at that thought. Mm-hmm. And there we have it. So we are going to have a ladder match to determine the true cruiserweight champion. We're going to have that unification match a la Shawn Michaels versus Razor Ramon. And if anyone's going to be able to, do that match justice and be on par, it is these two men. So, and the fact that the cruiserweights are having this opportunity is amazing.
Yeah.
So I thought it was a great nod to history, and a great way to allude to it without saying a single word. HBK could have done it. I mean, he's great on the mic, but he didn't need to, and that's what I loved.
Yeah, no, that was I really enjoyed that it was a less is more moment, because him not saying anything added way more power to that whole announcement, more or less. And I'm super excited. It's night 2. I just confirmed that. So night 2 is going to be loaded with lucha action and should not be missed. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
So excited.
It's good. Night 2. I mean, both nights are going to be great, but yes, between the ladder match and the main event, it's going to be interesting. But going back to your theory, Brendan, we could absolutely see Legado del Fantasma come out of Stand and Deliver with all the gold.
That's, like I said, that's what that's my prediction for the night. I think I think that they're going to be positioned to do bigger and better things, and we're going to be talking a lot more about Legado del Fantasma in the coming weeks, which does not hurt my feelings at all.
No, not at all. Well, that was this week in NXT. Up next, Dusty, why don't you take us through this week in Lucha Libre history?
Yeah, that's right. It's time for This Week in Lucha Libre History. Be sure to check in at luchacentral.com every single day for This Day in Lucha Libre by Pep Carrera for information, birth dates, anniversaries, match of the day, amazing videos, and even more. And it's all about Lucha Libre, and it's free at luchacentral.com, your centralized place for all things Lucha Libre. This week I chose March the 23rd, 2016, when Legends of Lucha Libre and Masked Republic superstar Penta El Zero M won the 20th edition of the Lucha Libre AAA Rey de Reyes tournament after beating La Parca and Villano 6 at Plaza de Toros El Paseo and San Luis Potosi. This match, if you saw it at the time or don't remember, like, Pentagon was on the way up. It was shortly after Io del Paraguayo passed away. This was a tribute show to him, and so kind of everybody expected Pentagon to win, and that is what we got, but the main story was that La Parca just refused to put him over in any clean way, any standard way, and so everybody that was kind of in the know was really mad about this because it was the Paraguayo tribute show. I mean, the Perros del Mal guys should have won. Shouldn't have been a question. But Parca, everything he didn't even put his shoulders down. Like, everything he did was an issue. It was a very strange match, not great. After the match, we see Daga, Taya, Khan, El Mal, and Joe Leiter join Pentagon to celebrate, and just as he's kind of holding the sword and yelling out, the lights go out. When they come back, it's Halloween, Damien, Nicho El Millonaro, and Pagano. They act like they're celebrating, but then they attack the Perros and say that they're the real Perros. Nicho's wearing a Bestia mask, and the Perros music plays when they're done. That was pretty cool, but the match itself was not so great. But I highly recommend everybody check it out because it's an excellent example of politicking in Lucha Libre. I mean, he puts the Pentagon's hand on the rope so that he can't be pinned, and yeah, it's just not a fan. What did you pick this week, Brendan?
This week I went with a match of the day. I chose March 28th when on an episode of WWF Super Astros in 1999, you had S.A. Rios versus Tiger Mask 4.
Wow.
Right?
Ooh.
Yeah.
First off, it was WWF Super Astros, which is in and of itself
Yes.
a very, very interesting thing. But
Yes.
you have S.A. Rios, who is, I mean, he is pretty much a legend of Lucha Libre at this point now. And you have Tiger Mask 4, who is the only one of the Tiger Masks who went to Mexico and trained there. So this is a very rooted, it's not just a guy in a mask doing a WWF match. It's two guys that are Lucha trained doing a match. And Super Astros was kind of promoting that sort of thing, which is why you're going to see more luchadors on it. Mm-hmm. So I was looking for all kinds of things. I was looking for something maybe a little more historic this week, but I just kept gravitating back to this one. The match itself, I only got to see a little bit of it because I picked it in kind of a hurry, but it looks like it's a super fun match, and it is, again, one of the matches of the day. So it is available on the YouTube channel for Lucha Central, as well as if you are a subscriber to the social media, you would just get it straight onto your feed on the day that it was the match of the day, which was the 6th. So, fantastic. The March 28th.
Yes.
It was match of the day. Fantastic stuff here. Miranda, what did you get?
I picked March 26, 2001, and this is when Rey Mysterio and Billy Kid won the WCW Cruiserweight Tag Team titles after beating Elix, Skipper, and Kid Romero. And what caught my eye on this, well, first off, the Cruiserweight Tag Team titles, I had forgotten about that.
Yeah.
Yes, me too.
But also, it was the very last episode of WCW Nitro in Panama City, Florida. And I had forgotten that this was the also anniversary of WCW being bought by WWF. Yeah. And so this match was very quick. And ultimately, too, another fun fact is that this was only the second time that we saw this, let's go back. So the titles itself were advertised back in February of 2001, and then we had a mini tournament to crown the first ever tag team champions just after that, in which Elix Skipper and Kid Romero won. And then the first title defense, which was literally the next week, was against Rey Mysterio and Billy Kidman, and that was literally it. Pretty much, then the company went under. So we didn't have any longevity with these titles, but I loved how commentary played that this was really, too, you can't have a Monday Night Nitro without the cruiserweights. And that was something that through their history, WCW did fantastic with the cruiserweight division. And it was unfortunately a little too late in its history when they created the tag titles. But it was something that, I'm glad in the end of it too, they were acknowledging two of their best luchadors in Kidman and Rey Mysterio. And so, it's just one of those funny things, like, that's so WCW like when you think about it, and when people say those things like, oh, you create titles that we only saw for 2 weeks before they got bought out, that's so WCW. However, with the cruiserweights, the match itself was great. It was very short, only just about 5 minutes, but at the same time, the cruiserweights was one of the few things WCW got right. And so I'm glad that it was acknowledged in commentary. I'm glad that it was acknowledged in the creation of these tag team titles, and also acknowledged within those who ended up winning the belts for the last time.
Yeah, I've said it before. I am a fan of Lucha Libre because of the cruiserweight division in WCW.
Yeah.
And that tournament that you were mentioning, I remember being, again, I was the only guy in the room. All my buddies decided that was the time they were going to go refresh their beer or go take a rip or whatever it was they were doing. And I'm like, no, guys, I'm going to sit here. I'm going to watch this awesomeness. And I feel like I won on this transaction. So.
Yes.
Right. Well, that was this week in Lucha Libre history, where you can find that on luchacentral.com. But Brendan, can you let our listeners know what else they can find on luchacentral.com?
Well, if you're listening to this by now and you haven't been to luchacentral.com, it really is time to do it. Luchacentral.com is the online home for Lucha Libre, where you can get all of the top news in English and in Spanish. Find the best curated video content and original content not seen anywhere else. Find when Lucha Libre events would be happening in your area. Find photo galleries from top photographers covering Lucha Libre around the world. A place to have your voices heard, from weekly polls to annual awards, seen and read by top executives in all of the major Lucha Libre promotions across the globe. And, as we've said over and over again, it's free. You can't beat this price, people. It's free.
No, yeah, free's my favorite.
Free.
Free. That's cheaper than $9.99. I'm going to keep throwing that out there. LuchaCentral.com, your centralized place for all things Lucha Libre.
Up next, Dusty, you have some AAA news for us.
Yes, I do. We had the Puebla Magica shows. We finally got to see those this week from the Tlaxcala tapings, thanks to Lucha Blog. So check out Lucha Blog for those clips if you want to see these matches. Week 1, we had La Hydra and Lady Maravilla defeating Fabi Apache and Lady Shawnee. We had Abismo Negro Jr. and Tejano Jr. defeating Laredo Kid and Octagon Jr. And we had Il del Vikingo and Psycho Clown getting a disqualification win over Chessman and Rey Escorpion. In week 2, we had Arez and Latigo defeating friend of the show Mr. Iguana and Nino Hamburguesa. Murder Clown and Octagon Jr. defeating Abismo Negro Jr. and Black Taurus, and Carta Brava Jr., Mocha Cota Jr., and Tito Santana brought that northern power to beat Io del Vikingo, Laredo Kid, and Pagano in a strange lineup. And then week 3, we had Black Taurus defeating Io del Vikingo. We had Flamer, La Hydra, and Lady Maravilla defeating Big Mommy, 80s, and Lady Shani. And we had Chessman and Tejano Jr. beating Laredo Kid and Penta El Zero Miedo. So pretty amazing lineup for those shows. Highly recommend everybody check it out. We also had some news from the shows that aired from the second week of tapings at Valle de Bravo, the Auto Luchas. No, I guess that was just a regular show. I apologize. The Marvel Lucha Libre characters made their first appearance since Triple Mania, and it was kind of interesting. At Triple Mania, Leyenda Americana and Terra Purpura were played by Daga and Brian Cage, respectively. However, as we mentioned, Daga was in Florida, and so, like, he's just not there. But this time around, Tejano was Terra Purpura, and the common consensus was that Octagon Jr. was the guy under the Leyenda Americana mask, the Captain America character. Estrella Cosmica, the Captain Marvel character, was played by Lady Maravilla previously, and she still seems to be the person under the mask. But it's interesting. These characters seem to be bigger than the people portraying them to AAA and Marvel, because this wouldn't be happening without Marvel and Funko's some degree there of their approval. So it's interesting to see that they see the characters as bigger than the people portraying them. And that they brought in such big people to portray them at Triple Mania and never really addressed it. And then they used just their regular guys this time around. It's all kind of surprising and interesting. So it'll be, I think, an indication of the investment of Marvel to see where these next few matches with their characters go.
Thank you so much for that information. Of course, we'll keep you updated on what happens with AAA, especially with Auto Luchas, and then, the return of the Marvel characters. Up next, we have This Week in Impact Wrestling. And of course, as usual, really the only lucha match or lucha libre content at Impact Wrestling right now is within the X Division. We had X Division champion Ace Austin face TJP in a rematch of what went down a few weeks ago when Ace Austin became the new X Division champion. And this match is as to what you expect as far as very fast pace, lots of back and forth between the two, very competitive. Of course, you had Ace Austin with a springboard kick towards the beginning, and then TJP with a plancha that wiped out Ace Austin. And then really with TJP, going more into that submission maneuvers that he likes to do. He did a double chicken wing to Ace Austin, which looked very, very painful. And then towards the end, TJP was looking like he was going for the Mamba Splash. However, Ace Austin was being accompanied to the ring by Madman Fulton, who broke up the count and ended up having the match end in a disqualification. So TJP did win. However, it was via disqualification. So Ace Austin is still your X Division champion. However, afterwards, it looks like they were going to do a further beatdown on TJP until Josh Alexander came out to help make the save. So maybe we will see TJP and Josh Alexander team up to face Ace Austin and Madman Fulton sometime in the future. It also seems that we're going to continue to see Josh Alexander in that X Division realm, and which I think is great for him. So check out the match, though. It was very solid, very good work. But it does seem like, again, we still have that merry-go-round of competitors in the X Division. However, some news that did drop today, which is very interesting because this will absolutely have implications for the future, is Impact Wrestling has announced they are changing their air times. They have mentioned that they're going back to airing on Thursday nights. And that leaves a lot of speculation as to why this change is happening. Very possibly because of the speculation and rumors that NXT is going to be jumping from Wednesdays to Tuesdays. And as we've seen, Impact Wrestling has typically been that company when any type of, they've been on air literally every day of the week. They have aired at some point every day of the week. Yep. And so when Impact is changing times, it's to avoid counter programming. It is not like the Wednesday Night Wars. They tried their hand at a Monday Night War revival, which failed miserably.
Yes.
But they are not in it for counter programming. So that makes it very interesting, one, to see if we will see NXT move from Wednesdays to Tuesdays. It also will make it very interesting to see what this means for the partnership between Impact Wrestling and AEW, because the way that it stands now is that on Tuesdays, they're able to preview what happens next on AEW the next day. And we have the Tonys doing that. Now that they're going to be changing to Thursdays, they won't be able to preview AEW. So unless it's a way to kind of do a lot of foresight a week in advance, what is that going to mean for that partnership with AEW? And kind of the same thing too with, usually Impact has been what we see coming into AEW. Now it's going to be the reverse. AEW will come first and then Impact. So that's just very, very interesting news that came out today. We still have not received any confirmation from WWE about the scheduling for NXT, but you put it together, it makes sense why they would be moving from Tuesdays to Thursdays. Just your quick thoughts on this, guys, Dusty and Brendan.
Yeah, I think that it's obvious. Their audience would, how many people are going to watch NXT on Tuesdays? Any audience they had is kind of gone, and so I think it's a smart long-term decision for them just to keep fresh eyes on the product. But like you mentioned, it creates a domino effect with a lot of other things, and so it'll be interesting to see how they work around that date change too.
Yes.
I mean, to your points, I hadn't even thought about the relationship with the two Tonys programming going in. It would be a just absolute shame, and I don't know if you can hear the sarcasm in my voice, if there had to be a little more reciprocity as a result of this, and the AEW had to start actually promoting a little more of Impact Wrestling. I mean, that would be tragic and unfortunate if this if they had to do the thing that Impact has been doing for them this whole time that this arrangement's been going on. And finally, the wrestling is all sprawled out, so I don't have to pick what night I'm watching a show anymore.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
we'll
that
talk
is
about,
nice.
there's still some action on Tuesdays. We'll get to that in a second. But yes, it's a lot more evenly distributed. If this pans out the way that we think, we are going to get wrestling every single night, Monday through Friday. But it's a little bit more spaced out where there isn't going to be really as much counter programming. So it does allow fans to not have to, choose between programs on Tuesdays or Wednesdays. There still will be a little bit, but it helps even things out for sure. Yes. So speaking of Wednesdays, we had MLW this week, and two marquee lucha matches. And I would, if anyone listened to last week's show, I wasn't quite high on the Lucha Libre content on last week's show, and I had high expectations for this week, and they did deliver. The very first match of the night was Gino Medina versus Senshi. This itself was fantastic. I loved the dynamic, and they were really playing on Gino Medina being now this keeper of Lucha Libre, that all things Lucha Libre had to run through him. They talked about his match with Gringo Loco from several weeks ago, and I think you had mentioned that, Brendan, that some of that had to do with the tie-in of the Loco name.
Yes.
With Gino's family, and that was alluded to in commentary. Now, this week with Zenshi, he's really the only other luchador, I would say not involved with Promociones Dorado. On the roster right now. So that was, his stance was to, kind of regulate on Lucha Libre and kind of show Zenshi a lesson. There was some great moves between these two. It started off more of a technical style match, but then of course Zenshi with kind of his signature drop kick in the beginning of his matches that took Gino out of the ring. And then, but really after that, when he came back, Gino was pretty dominant through most of the match. There was an interesting aspect in several times towards the end in which Gino tried to take off Zenshi's mask. And so, luckily the ref stopped, but that ended up creating a little bit of a distraction for Gino to land a big kick to the back of Zenshi's head, which he's calling the Eat the Defeat kick. And that laid Zenshi out and allowed Gino to make the pin for the win. So, it seems like Gino's on this mission to, almost like a Legado de Fantasma-esque attitude of he is the keeper of Lucha Libre, but that does make it very interesting to see if he does cross paths with Promociones Dorado. Back last year at one point, Gino was choosing between Promociones Dorado and the Dynasty to join. He ended up choosing the Dynasty. That did not go well. So who knows if Promociones Dorado makes another overture at Gino Medina.
Well,
go ahead.
Oh, it's not even fully Promociones Dorado anymore.
Oh, yes,
so
Azteca Underground, yes.
So you have a new wrinkle on that. Like, I mean, maybe that makes him more interested, or maybe that makes him less interested. There's some fun things that can come out of this.
Yes. Our second lucha match of the night was Mil Muertes versus Gringo Loco. And again, this one, last week we had Mil Muertes versus Perro. You have another big man in Gringo Loco. However, Gringo works the lucha style and does it well. And this match itself was a much, much better improvement from last week's. Already in the beginning, Mil Muertes coming out with the open weight championship. So he still has that after attacking Alexander Hammerstone a few weeks ago. Gringo Loco started off with a back somersault, really trying to, showcase a little bit of fun, but Mil was having none of that and ended up doing a spear on him very early on in the match. We also saw what seems to be going for his signature when he ends up knocking his opponent down and just wailing on him, not even looking for a pin, but just wailing the arms to his opponent. They did have some movement outside of the ring, and that's also when Mil Muertes put Gringo Loco into the ring post. And we did see some interference from Zelina De La Renta. However, Gringo Loco, just super impressive. He did an awesome diving corkscrew onto Mil Muertes. If someone that size should not move that smoothly, but man, does he know how to do it. However, we just see Mil Muertes does what he does best, and that's be dominant. He landed a big choke slam on Gringo Loco before finishing with the straight to hell for the win. Afterwards, Alexander Hammerstone did lay out a challenge to Mil Muertes, and they're going to be facing each other in 2 weeks for the open weight championship. So a great, were these, to the outstanding level? Not necessarily, but again, going back to what MLW does best and showcasing lots of different styles of wrestling. Even later on in that, in that episode, you had a crazy chain match between the Von Erich. Chain rope match between the Von Erichs and Team Filthy. So, you can really get a whole variety of wrestling from MLW in just one show. But if you're a Lucha fan, the 2 marquee matches from this week's episode, I recommend. So go ahead and check those out. And then our final story of this week is NWA. This past Sunday, the 21st, they aired Back for the Attack, in which we saw Thunder Rosa and Camille face off for the number 1 contender spot for the Women's World Championship. Excuse me. And as we kind of predicted, Camille came out on top. This is something that they've been kind of playing with for quite some time. And we know Thunder Rosa is already very busy with her work in AEW, in, Mission Pro, in continuing to be on the independents. And the NWA has really put a lot of stock behind Camille. So she is now the number 1 contender for the NWA Women's Championship, and I foresee her winning that from Serena Deeb. I think that they are going to have her as the new champion sometime soon. That also shows that, or speaking of kind of when we're going to see this, NWA Power made its return this past Tuesday. It is through Fight TV, though you do have to go through a paywall for it. But I think it's about $5.99 a month for it. So talk about, Honor Club and that pay rate, you can get, your weekly episodes of Power through Fight TV. But we are going to see them back regularly, which means we may not see the NWA Women's Championship on AEW television. That is kind of a shame because I think going back to, some good crossover opportunities, seeing someone of Camille's stature on AEW television would really, really help elevate the women's division. But the good news for NWA is that they have regular programming back. And speaking of, there are signs that point towards the NWA signing Alex Gracia. She had a match against Camille this past week on Power, and it seems like something that was alluded to. Again, with Thunder Rosa really bringing out and helping showcase the talent in Texas, it would be a great opportunity for her to be a part of the NWA and also for the NWA to get quite a snag in her. She's already been featured on AEW television on Dark, very popular throughout the independent circuit. And, if the NWA is really looking to strengthen their women's division, being able to snag someone like her is a great opportunity.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You mentioned Thunder Rosa and Mission Pro. Mission Pro has still been putting on programming this whole time too, so she has been super busy with that. Someone while I was watching the AEW feed had mentioned wanted to congratulate Thunder Rosa on having a really great show that they saw live at Mission Pro. He said, quote, last week. So I mean, they're
running monthly still.
Yeah.
So they're doing that. Speaking of someone who's been featured in Mission Pro quite often, that just got signed to AEW, Red Velvet. That came out today, so I think that's fantastic that's happening. Because but they featured even just that, like Nyla Rose was on there, on their previous show. Trying to remember who else, but they've been running monthly. Yes. Yep. So, they're busy. She's also still part of the dojo. Friend of the show, Mr. Iguana, has been making the rounds in Texas, and I know they've been, interacting, and they'd had some time together as well. So, glad to see them, back together. And it seems like, Mr. Iguana quite enjoyed his time in Texas.
Yes.
But keep on checking Mission Pro Wrestling. Their next show is called Locked and Loaded. You could check out Mission Pro Wrestling on social media for information, and those shows are available on the Title Match Network. That's the same as GCW, and lots of other independent wrestling promotions are featured on Title Match. So if you're interested to check out those shows and to possibly purchase the next Mission Pro Wrestling show, check out Title Match Network. And, well, for us here at the Lucha Central Weekly Podcast, that is it. Another edition done. Thank you all so much for listening. Make sure you check out luchacentral.com, your centralized place for all things Lucha Libre. And you could check out Lucha Central on Facebook and Instagram at Lucha Central, and on Twitter at LuchaCentralCom. We've told you so much about the YouTube page, so you might as well go check it out. Our wrap-up is there of Expo Lucha. The actual Expo Lucha is on there. Lots of matches and interviews are available on the Lucha Central YouTube page. While you're at it, go ahead and follow us on social media. Dusty, where can our listeners find you?
Yeah, I'm on Facebook at facebook.com/Dusty Murphy. And on Instagram at Dusty Murphy.
And Brendan, where can our listeners find you?
I am 321. That's the numbers 321 and T-shirt guy. 321 T-shirt guy, and I'm at Instagram. I'm on the Facebook, and I am all over Twitter. all over Twitter.
And me, Miranda Morales, you can find me on Instagram and Facebook at the hashtag Miranda, hashtag spelled out. As we told you in the beginning of the show, we have a new Facebook group, Lucha Central Weekly News. So if you're interested, that's where we're going to be posting some exclusive information there. As Dusty mentioned, he posted some interesting copyright or trademark information he found last week when it came to Andrade and Charlotte Flair. That was posted on the Lucha Central Weekly News Facebook group. We also have Content Pep posts all of the match of the days and this day in Lucha Libre links on there. If you're an independent promotion, you can go ahead and post your stuff in there as well. Articles, interviews, lots of content from Lucha Central is also posted up there. And just lots of fun stuff. So again, Lucha Central Weekly News on Facebook. You can send an invite to be added to the group, and an administrator will let you in. Thank you all again so much for joining us. We will be back next week, so make sure you stay tuned. For Dusty Murphy and Brendan Barr, I'm Miranda Morales. Thank you so much, and we will be back next week.
Respetable público, lucharán a 2 de 3 caídas sin límite de tiempo. En esta esquina, el santo y el tabernario. Y en la esquina opuesta, luchemos y el brillo.
Your business may be small, but you've got big goals. Brother Laser Printers can help you succeed, no matter the space, task, or budget. From crisp black and white to vivid full color, our printers offer affordable quality you can trust. Plus, fast printing and high page yields make them ideal for home offices and shared workspaces. It's no wonder Brother is the #1 retail brand in laser printer unit sales in the U.S. With Brother at your side, go from small to do it all. Shop now at brother-usa.com/laser.